Hey, it's Erin, and this is my countdown to the Arnold Classic South Africa. So we're less than 3 weeks out, and I wanted to share my shoulder workout with you. Also wanted to talk a little bit about strategy going into the show. So when I first started, I was doing a lot more free weights. I was doing Olympic lifts 3 days a week, HIIT 2 times a week, no cardio, like no steady state cardio. So now I've switched gears. I've cut out the Olympic lifts for the most part. I've cut out my HIIT. I just finished my last HIIT session, and I've moved to machines for especially heavy or challenging exercises because as we start to lean down, number one, the recovery is not as good. Number two, I feel like we're a little bit more fragile. So I don't know if you've been through that before, you'll notice the decrease in body fat. Things are kind of like creaky. And so that being said, I think it's important to adjust the training as you get leaner. So for this shoulder workout, I'm going to start on the hammer strength shoulder press machine rather than doing dumbbells or rather than doing the barbell because there's less chance of injury. I'm able to safely go a lot heavier than I normally would with just dumbbells. So cut out the HIIT. I'm doing 1 to 2 days of steady state cardio now, and this is just walking or biking, stairs, not holding onto the sides. So adjust and adapt. And this is also going to help prevent plateau and prevent injury. So let's get into that shoulder workout. Let's jump right in with hammer strength shoulder press. I love starting each workout with 1 to 2 compound movements that are heavy. So right now I'm not doing as many Olympic style lifts or a lot of the fast twitch stuff being 3 weeks out. The body becomes a little bit more delicate as you get leaner, as you're depleted. So I have a tendency to shift to more machines for the heavier weights. This limits the use of stabilizers, also lessens the chance of injury. So here, plate loaded hammer strength machine. It's independently weight loaded, so you're able to see if you're pushing evenly with the left and the right side. I'm doing 5 sets of 8 here, trying to get a little bit of that time under tension, so I'm going nice and slow, making sure I get my upper arm to parallel, trying to keep the forearm straight, keep the wrist straight, and focusing on pushing with my front and top delt. So shoulder press is probably my all-time favorite exercise for building those beautiful capped shoulders. So now lighten the weight probably by 50%, and I've switched angles a little bit. On this machine, I feel it hits a lot of the front delt when facing forward. So I like to flip around, face backwards, and this is still going to hit the top of the delt, but it's also going to hit those rear delts. So I'm interested in building a complete forward to back. So I want to make sure to train those beautiful little rear delts, something that's going to add a little bit of width to the back also. So if you're interested in making your waist look smaller, build those lats, but really build those rear delts because it's kind of like the icing on the protein cake. So here, 4 sets of 10, and 2 presses in a row is pretty tough. And with the rear delts, it's a very small muscle, so it's important to go a little bit lighter on the rear delts. And try to keep my head down, try to keep my chest against the pad here, and really just push through and trying to keep my shoulders rotated back and down. And that's going to help keep the traps out of it. Next exercise is the wide grip cable rows, upright rows. And I love doing the wide grips because it's a lot easier on the shoulders, less impingements, get a little bit better range of motion, and I actually feel it targets the shoulders a little bit better. So if you have pain when you're doing upright rows, try going a little bit lighter and widening that grip, and the wider grip should help. And you can see I flip that easy bar kind of upside down, and that helps me keep my wrists straight. So it's a great exercise. I really love doing these on the cable because it allows you to keep that constant tension on the muscle. So there's not one point in time where you let your shoulders rest unless you actually let your shoulders rest at the bottom. But don't do that. Keep that tension on the muscle because this is great for building nice round cap shoulders. So here, going as heavy as I can, and this is another 5 sets of 8, trying to keep the recovery to about 45 seconds to a minute in between each set. And this is essentially going to give me my cardio too while I'm lifting. I'm going to move on to some supersets. This is a seated lateral raise. And here you'll notice I don't lower the weight all the way down, and I try to almost lead with the elbows. So I'm turning my thumbs down and turning my elbows up. And then also think about the shoulder as being the lever. So the closer you bring those dumbbells to your body, the more you bend your elbows, the shorter that lever gets, the easier the exercise gets. So next time you do your lateral raises, try doing them seated. It's going to limit the amount of momentum that you use. Also try going lighter and keeping your arms a little straighter. So here, just focus on pulling sides. Now, I did separate my shoulder like 3 or 4 years ago. So the left side really have to focus on. So if you have an injury on one side, it's important that you're doing the exercises evenly on both sides. So if that left side can't do any more reps, I don't do any side. And this is going to help limit the amount of asymmetry and hopefully even both of those shoulders out. This is my first superset, and I'm kind of at a loss as to what to call this. This is a supine rear delt, kind of like an upright row, I guess. But I'm going super light here. I've just taken the same dumbbells over, and I'm focusing on keeping my shoulders back, keeping my back flat, and pulling through that rear delt. So anytime you're using dumbbells, they're great because you can really control that range of motion, but they're bad in that you can control the range of motion. So there's a tendency of pulling back and kind of lowering the elbows. And when you do that, the larger lats will take over. So the goal here is to hit the rear delt. So I'm staying super light. I'm keeping my elbows up, and I'm also trying to just fix my traps. So I don't want to pull with them. As we fatigue, it's easy to pull with things or push with things that are not the intended muscles, and the traps and lats here are really going to want to take over on this exercise. So it's just 4 sets of 10 and focusing on pulling through the elbow and really trying to make those rear delts pop. So a lot of the times shoulder exercises for me are going to focus on top of the delt and rear delt because we get definitely enough front delt with the chest exercises. So on to the next superset, and this is a narrow to wide shoulder press with dumbbells. And I like doing this because I feel it really hits the top of the delts, especially at the top of the exercise. So ordinarily I do say like 40-pound dumbbells. For this, because you're pushing up and out, it's 20-pound dumbbells. So I would say start light with this exercise. Really get that range of motion down before you go heavier. And before you go heavier, definitely increase that time under tension. So I really like to hold it, make sure I'm pushing with just the top of that delt there, and it'll burn you out, especially because we're getting later in the workout. So narrow to wide, keep the forearms, wrists nice and straight, and really feel that tension at the top of the exercise. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my easy bar. This is the second superset. 4 sets of 10 here, and straight into this kind of like modified partial upright row thing that I came up with. I was like, oh, this hurts. Let's keep doing it. So basically you're going to extend the easy bar to about your knees, and then you're going to pull up. So you're going at a 45-degree angle. This is awesome because it hits all heads of the shoulders, and you're really going to feel it. Don't need a ton of weight. It's partial rep. So as soon as it touches your knees, bring it back up as high as comfortably possible. I think I've got pretty good flexibility, so I tend to bring my elbows pretty high, but if you can't get your elbows that high, it's okay. Just focus on keeping that constant tension on the muscle and really burning those shoulders out. That was it for the shoulder workout. I'm working on some stuff for like meals, HIIT training, intermittent fasting, peak week. So if there's anything else that you want to see specifically, also doing a Q&A video. So if you have a question, just write it down below and I will try to include it. Thanks for watching. Until next time, train hard, y'all.